Welcome to a world where darkness reigns, where desires run deep and secrets linger in the shadows. This is Vampire Stories, your sanctuary for tales of lust, power, and immortality. Episode 7, The Eternal Muse. Seville, 1720. The city of Seville thrummed with life, a place where moonlight danced on cobblestone streets and the air was thick with the scent of orange blossoms. Beneath the gilded facade of its bustling plazas and ornate courtyards, the city harbored passions and secrets as intricate as the latticework of its Moorish palaces. Selene, ever drawn to places of shadow and indulgence, arrived at the invitation of Count Alejandro Vélez, a man as infamous for his charm as he was for the scandalous rumors that clung to him like perfume. Tonight, the Count's villa was alive with the murmur of whispered intrigues and the soft strains of guitar music, promising a night of indulgence that no soul would soon forget. But Selene had heard more than mere gossip. Vittorio was said to be immortal, untouched by the passage of time, intrigued by the possibility of finding another like herself or an even greater power. She decided to infiltrate his world. The grand ballroom glittered with the light of 1,000 candles reflected in mirrored walls. Gilded chandeliers swayed gently overhead, casting golden shadows over masked figures adorned in velvet, lace, and jewels. Laughter and music mingled with the soft splashes of gondolas drifting past outside. Selene entered, her mask a shimmering blend of black and silver, her gown a cascade of midnight silk that hugged her every curve. She was a vision, and all eyes turned to her as she descended the marble staircase. Vittorio spotted her immediately, standing at the far end of the room. He was tall, his mask a simple black that highlighted the sharp lines of his jaw and his piercing blue eyes. His gaze lingered on her, a faint smile playing at his lips. "Who is she?" a woman whispered behind him. "Danger," Vittorio murmured, though his curiosity burned brighter than his caution. As the evening progressed, Selene danced with several admirers, each eager to claim her attention. But her eyes remained fixed on Vittorio, who watched her like a predator assessing his equal. Finally, as the orchestra began a slower waltz, Vittorio approached her. "May I have the honor?" he asked, his voice smooth as velvet. Selene inclined her head, offering her hand. "I thought you'd never ask." Their movements were a perfect blend of grace and tension, each testing the other with subtle shifts and glances. "You move like someone who's seen many lifetimes," Vittorio remarked, his voice low. "And you speak like a man who knows more than he reveals," Selene replied, her lips curling into a sly smile. They danced in silence for a moment before Vittorio leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. "You're not mortal, are you?" Selene pulled back just enough to meet his gaze. "Neither are you." Their lips met with sudden intensity, a clash of power and hunger. Vittorio's hands gripped her waist, pulling her closer as the kiss deepened. Selene's fangs grazed his bottom lip, drawing a single drop of blood that she tasted with a soft hum of pleasure. Vittorio pulled back, a flicker of apprehension crossing his face. "You're dangerous," he whispered. "And you like it," Selene replied, her voice a seductive purr. They sank onto a stone bench, their passion unfolding in the dim glow of the garden. Vittorio's touch was electric, his movements confident yet reverent, as if worshiping her. Selene responded in kind, letting him believe he had the upper hand, even as she studied his every reaction. But as dawn began to creep over the horizon, Selene felt a familiar pang. Vittorio was not her equal. His immortality was borrowed, not inherent. His power came from feeding on emotions, not blood. When he finally fell into a deep sleep, exhausted from their encounter, Selene leaned over him, her crimson eyes soft with something that could almost be mistaken for regret. "You were close," she murmured, tracing his jawline with her fingers. "But not close enough." She bit him then, drinking deeply. His blood was intoxicating, rich with centuries of stolen passions. But she left him alive, her mark a reminder of their night together. As she slipped away, the first rays of sunlight kissed the city, and Selene whispered to herself, "On to the next." She approached, her voice soft. "May I join you?" Julian looked up, startled, but his surprise quickly gave way to curiosity. You already have, he said, gesturing to the empty chair. Selene sat, her gaze locking onto his. Your work is extraordinary, but it seems to come from a place of pain. Julian's lips twitched into a bitter smile. Isn't that where all great art comes from? Over the next few nights, Selene became Julian's muse. She posed for him in his dimly lit studio, her presence inspiring a feverish creativity he hadn't felt in years. But their relationship went beyond art. Selene seduced him with a slow, deliberate passion, her every touch designed to unravel his defenses. Julian responded with equal fervor, his kisses hungry, his hands desperate to memorize every inch of her. Their nights were a blur of paint and passion, the boundaries between artist and subject dissolving. "You've bewitched me," Julian whispered one evening, his voice trembling with awe. Selene smiled, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw. "You've bewitched yourself." But as Julian's obsession grew, so did his torment. His final masterpiece, a portrait of Selene bathed in shadows, was his most haunting work yet. When he presented it to her, Selene's gaze lingered on the painting. "It's beautiful," she said softly. Julian stepped closer, his voice raw. "I've given you everything, my art, my heart. Tell me, Selene, what will you give me in return?" Selene leaned in, her lips brushing his ear. "Eternity." Her fangs sank into his neck, and Julian gasped, his body trembling as pleasure and pain intertwined. She drank deeply but stopped before taking his life. "You will live," she said, her voice tinged with rare affection. "But you will never forget me." As Selene disappeared into the night, Julian stared at his painting, tears streaming down his face. The woman in the portrait seemed to smile, her eyes glowing with a secret only he would ever know. If you've enjoyed this glimpse into the world of Selene, there's so much more to come. Subscribe and join us for more stories of desire, betrayal, and the eternal night. Until next time, stay curious, stay haunted, and remember, the shadows are never empty.